Hi, we have Joe Tumalo with us today, and Joe is an expert in many things, but in particular, I want to talk to Joe about planned giving because he has quite a career in helping people marketing planned giving programs. Joe, thanks for coming here.
Matt, my pleasure. Thank you. I'm not an expert, and that's a big part of my message is you don't have to be an expert to go out and talk about planned giving.
Fascinating.
Yeah. So my background is I was a longtime sales guy and sales manager.
Right.
And when I
In a family business.
in a family business,
Right.
and when I tripped into fundraising like so many people do,
It is a traditional way.
yes, I realized, you know what? Very similar skill sets between relational salespeople and relational fundraisers. And that a lot of it's about being intentional, having a plan, being confident, using our time wisely so that we can go out and spend time with donors out the door.
And particularly in planned giving, which is the most relationship-based kind of fundraising there is.
Absolutely. It doesn't always come easily, but I do believe that it comes a lot easier than most people think when we can show donors how simple planned giving can be.
Right, right. Well, planned giving is an important part of any fundraising program, and yet so many people are afraid of it. For any number of reasons. They don't feel like they know enough themselves. They feel like people are going to react badly to them. Somebody on their board or otherwise might have an issue with the ultimate topic that it comes down to. So part of this is just getting beyond all of that so you can get out and have a reasonable conversation with people. Is that right?
It's the fear of the unknown that stops so many people.
Yeah.
And again, when you can see how simple it can be and the fact that most planned gifts are simple beneficiary gifts, leaving the charity in your will, retirement plan, life insurance,
right?
Simple things. And it's simple for us as fundraisers and the donor. The donor can change their mind. If you know what, if it's just your circumstances change, there's no legal commitment here for the most part.
Yeah,
for most charities.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's great. And so being able to be flexible that way is an important part of this message.
Absolutely. The exciting thing and the good news is that in planned giving, we're hopefully working with loyal donors, people that love us already.
Oh, that's interesting.
So it's so much easier. And I always like to go in with the attitude of, well, I know they love the organization, and I know I'm doing them a favor by offering them other options.
Oh, that's you're doing them a favor.
Absolutely.
How does that work? Because you're
giving them,
you're in effect you're taking from them, aren't you? I mean, how's that doing them a favor?
No, and I don't mean that in an arrogant way that
no, that's all right.
You should be honored that I'm taking my time with you. That donors want options, and I know my wife and I have 5 charities in our estate plans, and sometimes we just get tired of writing checks all the time. And many times I feel like, boy, I'd love to write a bigger check, but I'm not really in a position right now to write big checks, but I want to do more, and I want to have more of an impact with this charity. And a planned gift, a gift that costs me nothing now, is a great way to do that.
Now, you just brought up something that I find fascinating that's only come out, I don't know, in the last 10 years or so in planned giving, which is this loyalty factor and the fact that you, as an example, are not, you're not writing $20,000, $30,000 checks every year to these organizations.
Correct.
And that people are small donors getting into this. So planned giving isn't just for the big donor then.
Absolutely, and if you look at some of the work that's been done, the research that's been done on wealthy, affluent donors, those that are more likely to have tax issues, when they ask them, what are your top reasons for making a planned gift? Tax issues did not show up anywhere on their top 10 list.
Wow.
So, and they are the exception.
Yeah.
So especially for someone that's just getting into planned giving, go out and get into low-risk situations. Go visit people that you already know, that have been giving, that are loyal. Now,
define loyal. What do you mean by loyal?
Well,
have they made small gifts over time? Or
gifts of any size.
Okay.
Yeah. Are they volunteers? So have they been giving? Are they volunteers? They're more connected.
All right.
Maybe they're former employees, former staff, former faculty. So they've got more of a connection. If they don't have children, that's huge. If you look at some of the research that's being done out there, particularly by a gentleman named Russell James out of Texas Tech University.
All right.
Really one of the pioneers of planned giving research these days. It shows that donors without children are most likely to make a planned gift. Not necessarily to your charity, just because your donors don't have kids, it doesn't mean that they're more likely than the rest of your donors to make a planned gift.
Okay.
There's a clear distinction there. It's that they are more likely to make a planned gift to anybody, and then the key is to find out, are they loyal, connected enough to us to want to do it with us?
So having that relationship before
Absolutely.
is huge.
It makes it so easy.
Right.
I also highly recommend that people join the Planned Giving Society themselves.
Okay. Now you brought up something I wanted to talk about,
Yeah.
which is planned giving societies and these ways of marketing planned gifts to people.
Yes.
What's a planned giving society? What do you mean by that?
Well, it's a society that recognizes donors who have included the charity in their estate plans.
Okay.
And it could be revocable, irrevocable. In other words, they can change their mind. It doesn't have to be bound by anything legally. We want to recruit. I like to think of it as recruiting members.
So nonprofit just says, hey, we're going to have this group.
Yep.
And this group is all our planned giving donors. And we are going to recognize them in certain ways. We're going to do things with them and to start communicating. Is that all?
Well, it's also, there is a stewardship component in there. If you look at the statistics, once somebody becomes a planned giving donor, they're welcomed into the society, they're properly stewarded.
What's that mean?
They're thanked on a regular basis.
Okay.
They're involved in the organization. They're visited. Pick up a phone and call them just to say, hey, check
Give them a little
in.
button or something, lapel pin, that sort of thing.
Yeah, now with that, we found that, and I can speak from personal experience, that people don't like wearing the pin or they forget it. So what we recommend, just a little quick tip here, is on their name tag, put a little sticker. So you show up to the event on site at the charity.
Oh, and you're a planned giving donor. Isn't that
Exactly.
great?
Or what is that? What's that on your name tag? Why don't I have that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So using that legacy society as a way, as a platform, it's a marketing tool, if that's the right way to say it.
No, it's exactly the
in
right
a
way
way,
to say
because planned giving, there's really no sense of urgency. You look at annual fund and people get it. Your donors are trained. End of the year, end of the calendar year, end of the fiscal year. People understand they need to make that gift.
Right.
Obviously in a capital campaign, this is our goal, this is the timeline. People understand it. With planned giving, first of all, it's on the donor's timeline. So I recognize that. At the same time, there are ways like using the Legacy Society to create an appropriate sense of urgency.
And donors are hoping that timeline is going to push out more, so they might push it out more themselves.
Absolutely. So great thing. We've had a lot of success with our clients in Legacy Society membership drives. It's really simple.
Like how, by telephone or letter? What's the mechanics behind that?
Sure. Well, visiting is always the best.
Okay.
If your constituents are throughout the country, certainly it can be done over the phone. And if
Well, I know one employer that you work with used to promote a program, almost a phone-a-thon program for planned gifts.
it was a very high-level outsourced calling program strictly for planned giving.
Right.
And our callers were closing planned gifts over the phone. People they never met. These are callers that did not work for the charity. So the whole approach, and you can certainly, the preference is to do it yourself.
Well, yeah.
It's a thank you, thanking loyal donors personally, asking them why, my favorite word, why. Why are you so connected? Why have you been so engaged?
Right.
And letting that conversation flow, and then ultimately saying, would you ever be open to a conversation about including the charity in your future plans?
All right.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of other options besides just bequests, wills, right? Putting in your future plans.
Correct.
I know you, for a long time, were involved with postcards and programs going out to people in the mail. Tell me, how did that work? What were there advantages of postcards over newsletters? Were there certain ways that you would talk about planned giving through these postcards?
Well, we need to keep in mind with any marketing for planned giving that it's really drip, 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 drip. Oh, wait a minute. Something's going on in my life. I'm redoing my will. I'm traveling, which is a big time, a popular time when people redo their wills. Just had a baby. Just lost a spouse. Just got a divorce. Bought a house.
Retired.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
That.
Big life circumstances, life events. So again, we're drip, 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 trying to get somebody at the right time. It's like, I use the analogy of a vacuum cleaner. You're probably not paying attention to vacuum cleaner ads if you don't need a vacuum cleaner. But if you were to keep getting a postcard over and over again about vacuum cleaners, and one day your vacuum cleaner breaks, you're gonna pay attention to that message, and it's similar to that in planned giving.
So you might, as a donor, keep on collecting these cards, throw them in a drawer or whatever. And I guess, is that why postcards are better than newsletters?
Because of the frequency. Newsletters are more expensive.
Okay.
If you are going to do a newsletter, I highly recommend that it's all about story, mostly about stories, 90%
Right.
stories.
Yep.
Both stories of donors who've made the plan gift commitment,
Right.
stories of people who benefit from the plan gift as well,
Okay.
the outcome.
But do people read newsletters as much as, I mean, the postcard they're just going to see and it's going to be, boom, here we go, as opposed to really getting, everybody I talk to, and I always find it interesting, I think what people say and what they do are often two different things. But reading about somebody's planned gift is probably not the thing I'm going to do first thing when I get the mail.
Yes, postcards have a very high readership rate, roughly 85%. And it's a quick decision as you stand over your trash can reading your mail.
Right.
And again, you're going to look at that and say, not for me. And then hopefully we're going to catch you at some point when it is a time for you to think about doing something. So the newsletters tend to be more expensive. So they limit the amount of time that you can be out in the mail in front of your donors. So
Makes sense.
if you have enough money, I certainly recommend a combination of postcards and very, very personalized newsletters.
Okay.
And there are some great providers out there.
Yeah, you don't have to invent these yourself necessarily.
No.
In fact, that brings up another point which is important is websites.
Yes.
So you see a lot of plan giving websites out there. Are these organizations having an expert do this themselves in-house? Do they get them from outside?
The website, the web is the one area I really strongly encourage people to think about outsourcing.
Okay.
Because it becomes outdated
Right.
easily. It's just not as easy to deliver the content online in a way that's engaging and interesting for donors.
And I imagine if a tax law changes,
Absolutely.
that's going to be updated immediately,
Yes.
where you have to be on top of that to make sure that changes.
Yeah, I would always take my marketing budget and outsource the web first, and then if you want to do some stuff in-house, look at the print and the email marketing.
Right, but even the print and email you can outsource as well.
Absolutely, and
Right.
these companies out there have everything packaged. You can just buy it in a package. It's very simple. Now, you might look like the other charity down the street, which should always be a concern. Hey, if I'm a school and the hospital down the street is using the same provider and my donor's getting the same stuff, some people don't like that. Other people say, well, you're just reinforcing the message. It's
Yeah.
like when you see fast food restaurants,
Right,
when you see a McDonald's, chances are you're going to see a Burger King
Yep.
right next to it or across the street.
exactly.
These people are smart. There's a reason they're doing that because they're creating that interest and demand. And they know that the more that it's talked about, the more that they're putting that brand out there.
Well, while their competitors are also synergistic between each other.
Absolutely.
That makes a
And
big
keep in
difference.
mind that most of our donors are going to have 3 to 5 charities in their plans.
How dare they not just have our charity?
I know. How about that?
Really?
But you know what? Chances are that the other charities aren't asking.
Ah.
There's a great researcher in our field, and I don't know if you talk about it in your course, Penelope Burke,
Okay.
out of
Yep.
Canada. She's a researcher, wonderful book called Donor-Centered Fundraising.
Yep.
And she did a study, and it showed that 35% of the respondents said that they would consider including their favorite charity in their plans. 35%.
Right.
So I use that number a lot to think that out of every 10 loyal donors, 2 to 3 would be open to a conversation about plan giving. That's huge.
But my guess is
Yes.
that 35% never understands that their charity actually accepts plan gifts. And I've heard that a lot from people. It's like, oh, I didn't know you guys did this.
We take it for granted that people know.
Yeah.
The other side of that, relating to what you just said, is that of those 35% that said I'd be open to it,
Right.
only 17% said the charity ever asked.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So again, we assume that they're thinking about it like we are, but we're in the business, so they're not thinking about it. I've had some donors say, I've done it, but I didn't even know I was supposed to say something.
Yeah.
I didn't know. So it's education. Big part of that marketing is educating people.
Well, and that gets back to what you were saying before about the phone calls. My conversations with you and with others about the phone call program was that so many times the people responsible for plan giving in the organization weren't getting out. They were just being order takers.
Absolutely.
Want a gift annuity with that? Right. Right. They weren't actually proactively getting out and talking to people about planned gifts.
Absolutely. Well, just even, I don't like to think of it as talking about planned gifts. Let's just have a conversation.
Yes.
I did a couple donor visits this week for my church. I just helped them develop a plan giving program.
Okay.
I'm working with some really well-intended people at the church not fundraisers.
Right.
And they keep saying, Joe, don't you want to take brochures with you? Don't you want to talk about gift annuities? And part of my work is educating them as we, as fundraisers, want to do with our board, right? To educate them that we just need to have a conversation first.
Well, that brings up something that I think we've talked about a little bit before, but always been my pet peeve in planned giving work, which is the tool. People sell the tools and not using the tools for a solution for somebody's problems.
Exactly. Let's figure out if you're interested. Let's figure out if you want to do something, and then we'll figure out later. And with your advisor, you'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. What Jim Rohn, who was a motivational speaker, had a great saying: "When the why is clear, the how is easy."
Yes.
When the why is clear, the how is easy. So it's our job as fundraisers to start is to find the why. Why is the donor so connected to us? Why would the donor want to invest in us? Really important. Before we go out and visit with that donor, if we're sitting in our car in the driveway, remind ourselves, why would the donor want to invest in us when they have so many choices?
So this isn't about wills and annuities and trusts and all that. It's not about the money. It's about the mission.
Well, it's both. It's what you just talked about was the how.
Right.
Right. So it's why. I use another analogy or another metaphor actually, and I didn't come up with this. It's through the American College in their program, the Chartered Advisor in Philanthropy, the CAP program,
Which I know you hold that designation.
Which I've gone through, and it's an amazing program. And they talk a lot about above the line and below the line.
Right.
That concept transformed the way I work with clients and the way I work with donors. So below the line is the how, tax issues, the different gift vehicles, all important. Above the line is all about the donor, the mission, the difference they want to make for themselves, for their family, and the people we serve. So what I tell fundraisers is you don't need to be an expert in the below the line. In fact, it's appropriate to be too much of an expert. You're not the donor's professional advisor.
Right.
So just learn just enough, the basics, and I promise you, in a week or two, you can learn enough of the basics just to have the confidence. And so when I work with fundraisers, I give them just enough just so they get out the door.
And that's an excellent point, because that's something that I've
harped
on. Yeah, of course, right?
A lot of egos in this business.
Yeah, right. It's an excellent point because so many people are intimidated about planned giving. It's one of the reasons they don't get out and do this kind of work because they say, I have to learn all of this. I can't do that. I can't be an expert and answer all their questions.
I don't want to look foolish. I don't want to start a conversation I can't finish.
Yep.
And it's okay to start a conversation that you can't finish.
And you would finish it by picking up the phone and calling the expert who then can finish that with you.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of getting somebody engaged and having them talk about what's important to them and saying, gee, I'd love, well, what was the question? I can't think of wherever people say it all the time in these things. It's, if you could meet your objective and help us, would you do it?
Yes.
And if the answer is yes, that's when you pick up the phone and you call your friend to come in here and help you work that through.
With the donors advisors as well,
of course,
right? Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that first visit, and which is usually the toughest, right? That really stops people, is all above the line.
Right.
I'm just going. So when I go out and make donor visits with our church members, I'm just talking about the why above the line. And if there's an interest, then I can come back and we can talk about below the line.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I had a church member email me the other week, and she said, I gave a talk, 5-minute talk at church, and it was here's how simple planned giving is. Here's the initiative we're starting, and I've done it. My wife Lorraine and I have done it, and I invite you to join me.
Right.
And so it really resonated with a lot of people, and I got a number of people come up to me afterwards and say, boy, I want to sit down, or I've done something.
Yep.
And then one woman emailed me and said, yeah, I'm really interested in doing something. I've heard about these trusts. Someday you can educate me about these trusts. And I said, well, Mary, I can show you the basics, but what I'm really good at is asking questions and listening and helping you figure out for yourself what you want to accomplish.
Right.
Right? That's our job.
And then you can figure out, is the trust the right thing? Is it an annuity? Is it just leaving in the will? Whatever works.
Yeah.
So you don't focus on the vehicle first. You focus on their objectives first.
And we used this analogy in a recent podcast. It's like if you were having your kitchen remodeled.
Right.
And let's say you call 3 contractors to get bids. And let's say one of the contractors, you hear something in your driveway, and you open the garage door and the contractor has backed their truck up to your driveway and started unloading all these tools in your driveway, you'd be like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Right? We haven't even had a conversation yet. You don't know what my needs are or my goals are, and you're bringing out all your tools.
But really, hammers, that's it. That's all I use is hammers.
When all you have is a hammer, the whole world looks like a nail.
That's it.
Right?
That's it.
Yeah.
Joe, this has been great, and we've learned a lot. Is there anything else that you want to leave with our audience about plan gifts, about marketing plan gifts, anything you think is important we missed?
Be intentional. Have written goals around plan giving.
Okay.
Which can be as simple as we want to add X amount of members to our plan giving society.
So it is, I wouldn't say predictable, but you can have goals that are meaningful. A lot of folks say, well, you know, it's plan giving, right? I can't tell when somebody's going to die.
That's true. Right. So,
but you can have other kind of goals.
Like how many members, how many asks, how many visits,
right?
How many visits, how many qualified visits, how many asks did I make? And
how many people in your society?
How many people, and that I talked about that membership drive.
Right.
You know, to set a goal. Community college that I'm very involved in, and in Plan Giving Donor, celebrated its 50th anniversary, like a lot of community colleges.
I heard that.
These last couple of years.
Yeah.
And we set a goal last year to get to 50 members to celebrate the anniversary, and we were at 23, so we doubled within about 9 months.
That's great.
So a lot of people came out of the woodwork, said I've already done it. When we showed them how simple it was, others said, sure, I can do this. Beneficiary in my retirement plan, it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's about, again, being intentional, having written goals, getting the board involved. That's huge. You've got to get the board on board.
Yes.
And get them supporting it, engaged in it, and involved in actually signing up.
That's super. Yeah, that's like anything else. If the folks who are closest don't do it, you know, it's how can you get other people to do it? And like you said, also, you yourself are a donor to any number of institutions. It's not like you can just talk about this with them, with just people in those places, but that you now have the credibility to talk about this more broadly.
Absolutely.
Which anybody can do.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Joe, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks.